Why are we stuck in the box? Someone call Spiff. He knows how to clip out of stuff in Poppy Playtime. I am trapped in a box.
You should not spend money on Project Playtime. You shouldn't buy the in-game currency that's used for skins, and you certainly shouldn't buy this battle pass thing. Before you assume that this is just another video about why Poppy is bad, it isn't. I actually enjoy Project Playtime and I think it's fun. I recommend that everyone check it out. I mean, it's free, why not? Unfortunately, the game suffers from some severe oversights, resulting in a fundamentally flawed multiplayer game that nobody ought to feel comfortable investing money into. Honestly, I'm surprised that Mob Games was brazen enough to launch the microtransactions alongside such a broken game in the first place. I'm not talking about bugs, and I don't think it's fair to criticize Poppy Playtime for being buggy and janky. It's a free-to-play early access game, and we expect that. I can forgive falling through the floor, flying through walls, the keys on the piano minigame not always lighting up, or waypoints not updating when they're supposed to. In fact, I'm not going to criticize the game for bugs whatsoever in this review, although be aware that the game is buggy as hell. The thing is, even ignoring the bugs, the game has some severe design oversights that won't necessarily be so simple to fix. In case you haven't been keeping up, Project Playtime is a new free-to-play asymmetric multiplayer game from the creators of Poppy Playtime. You and a team of 5 other players are shuttled by train into a Playtime Cove facility and must assemble one of the evil company's nefarious demon toys. However, all the while we're hunted by another player controlling one of the series' now iconic monsters, as well as this guy, I guess. It's basically Dead by Daylight. Finally, the game was released, and it actually has the potential to be a lot of fun. I get that it's become trendy to hate on Mob Games and their rampant monetization, and I've certainly criticized them plenty myself. However, as far as freemium games go, Project Playtime's model is perfectly fine, in theory at least. The game is free, and they need to make money from it, which reminds me that this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. With billions of ways to customize and build more than 650 unique champions, endless PvE and PvP action, Raid Shadow Legends is a free-to-play mobile game with visuals that rival many console and PC games. New to Raid is MMA and pro wrestling superstar Ronda Rousey, and the rowdy hero is here to lay the smackdown on bosses like the Fire Knight using a variety of multi-hit skills. She blocks both active and passive skills, making her your secret weapon against even the toughest arena battles. New players and veterans alike can get Ronda for free if they log in and play for 7 days between now and February 20th. Use promo code RAIDRONDA to receive a $30 bonus absolutely free, including a 3-day XP boost, 500,000 silver, and 5 full energy refills. You'll even get the epic champion, Aina. All this treasure will be waiting for you here. Click the link in the description or scan this QR code to download Raid Shadow Legends today. I've always enjoyed asymmetric games like this, and I actually think Project Playtime's core design fixes some of the issues I have with similar games like Dead by Daylight. The actual tasks the team completes are more interesting than simple reflex puzzles, and both the teammates and the monster have interesting mobility mechanics that makes moving around the map fun. In ways, I'd argue it's an overall better, more fun game than the actual Poppy Playtime. When a round starts, 6 players spawn in on a train, whereas 1 is taken to the monster selection screen. The train arrives at whatever level you're playing, and you all flood into the map and start looking for these puzzle pillars. Each map has a bunch of puzzle pillars littered all over the place, and they all have the same 3 mini-games on them. One is just Simon again, but on a piano. It's straightforward, though as I mentioned before, there's a glitch where the keys don't always light up. It does always play the correct tone though, and I was actually able to salvage some attempts where the key didn't light up just by listening for the note it played and choosing based on that. It's not a deal breaker, but definitely a bug that needs fixing. The next puzzle is just a simple reflex test. One of the buttons flashes and you need to press it with your hand before it fizzles out. You do 10 of these and it's done. The final side of the pillar contains a memory puzzle where you have to memorize the pattern of lights and reproduce it. You need to solve this one twice. Upon completing all 3 puzzles on a pillar, a toy part will pop out. You need to grab this and bring it to one of the many boxes littered throughout the map and throw it in. However, if you screw up any of the puzzles, the monster is given an alert that someone just failed a pillar puzzle, and it puts a waypoint to the respective pillar on their screen. The players are constantly being hunted by Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, or newcomer Boxy... what's his name? Boxy Boo. Each monster has their own unique mechanics. Mommy Longlegs can grapple around the map like Spider-Man. Huggy Wuggy can spawn smaller Huggies that act as wards and alerts him to players' positions, and Boxy Boo can launch himself across the map using his springs. Boxy Boo can also camouflage himself in the environment, and he can even use his spring arm as a grappling hook to grab players and pull them towards him. Upon downing a player, the monster has a limited amount of time to throw them down one of the many hatches scattered throughout the map. If you're thrown down the hatch, you'll find yourself sent to the Gulag, a recreation of Poppy Playtime Chapter 2's Wuggy segment, though without the horrible fog everywhere. All the currently downed players reside here and must spin in circles bopping Huggies on the head. If you ignore one for too long, they'll kill you permanently and it's game over. To escape, another player needs to go to the hatch that you were thrown down and pull you out with their grabber hand, at which point you respawn and continue playing. However, if you're thrown down the hatch 3 times, you're dead for the rest of the round and need to wait it out. Once the team has deposited 6 toy parts, they need to go to this press thing and pull it down. Finally, it's a mad dash to rendezvous back at the train and escape before the monster can kill you. If you make it, you win. If you don't win. The monsters are generally faster and have more mobility than the rest of the players, but throughout the maps are interactable objects like hooks that you can use to swing over gaps or doors that you can slam closed behind you. This allows you to put some distance between yourself and whoever's chasing you, though they typically have cooldowns and can't be spammed repeatedly. In my opinion, these interactables lead to some of the most fun I had playing Project Playtime. Wuggy will be chasing you and you'll be whipping around corridors, desperately trying to escape when you encounter a big hole with a grapple point on it. You aim your hand, hook on, and swing over the gap, buying yourself some precious distance. The same goes for doors. It's incredibly cool when you're being chased by another player only to slam a door in their face behind you as you sprint away. These are the moments that make Project Playtime awesome, and I hope that the future maps are designed around lots of these little interactions because they're the most fun, memorable things in the game. Beyond that, each of the character classes have skill trees which you upgrade using tickets earned at the end of matches. These let you move faster, they make puzzles easier, they give you more health, stuff like that. Tickets can only be earned by playing the game, so let nobody tell you that Project Playtime is pay to win, because at the moment at least, it isn't. There are, however, rampant cosmetic microtransactions from day one, but we'll get to that later. The first problem I encountered was that the game stutters every 7 seconds when you're in a match. It was consistent every 7 seconds. I'm not going to criticize them for bugs, but it's really annoying. You're going to see it in literally all the footage throughout this video other than the tutorials. Just please fix it, mob games. Fix the stuttering. The next problem I encountered was with the game's waypoints. The maps are huge, which is fine. They're actually well sized for 7 players, and they're easy enough to get around. As you complete objectives, different waypoints will appear depending on the context. If one of your teammates needs to be rescued, you'll get a waypoint directing you to their location. Later on, if you pick up a toy part, waypoints leading you to the deposit boxes will appear. However, waypoints will appear for every single box on the map. Thus, whenever you pick up a toy part, you're assaulted by 30 different waypoints, and you end up randomly picking one and walking towards it without realizing that it's on the complete opposite side of the map. It would be a lot better if it only showed you waypoints to the boxes that are closest to you.
Holy shit, there's so many. You guys don't need to show me every single one. Just show me the one that's close to me. In fact, showing me so many makes it harder.
As it stands though, until you've memorized every map and learned the locations of everything, you'll sort of be running around like a headless chicken whenever you're presented with a bunch of waypoints. Ironically, Project Playtime suffers from the opposite problem in the late game. At times, there aren't any waypoints when there really ought to be. I had several matches where we had obtained 5 of the 6 toy parts, but we just couldn't find the last pillar puzzle that we hadn't solved. We wandered around for 10 minutes looking for it while the monster slowly picked us all off one by one. Considering that at times the game hits you with so many waypoints that they just become useless, it's sort of amusing that there are no waypoints at all in the situations where you really need them. When there's only 1 or 2 puzzle pillars left, players need some way to get a hint as to what direction they should be going. Maybe some sort of ability that unlocks once you've gotten a couple of toy parts? Or heck, why not just give us a key we can hold down that'll highlight the incomplete puzzle pillars? Is there any real reason that the players shouldn't have access to that information at all times? The waypoints in general are just really buggy, and again, I'm not going to criticize the bugs in this video because it's early access and we expect bugs, but there's one issue where a toy part waypoint will appear in a seemingly random location where there isn't any toy part. That one waypoint loses the game because everyone runs to it thinking that there's a toy there and wastes a minute trying to find it before realizing it's glitched out and not there. Honestly, I'd consider this bug to be priority 1 for mob games. They need to fix this, after the stuttering, I guess. So, priority 2. Fortunately, pretty much all of the things I've addressed so far ought to be able to be addressed rather easily and quickly in the coming weeks. However, not all of the game's problems are going to be so simple to fix. The single biggest problem in Project Playtime is the peer-to-peer matchmaking. There are no dedicated servers. One player hosts the game and everyone else just connects to their machine. The problem is that if the host leaves the game, it ends immediately for all the players and nobody gets any of the round end rewards. There's no host migration. This is such a massive oversight. I cannot believe that no one realized what a problem this was. I joined a game and I actually got to play as the monster, which is pretty rare. You can't choose what role you get, so there's only a 1 in 7 chance that you'll be able to play as the monster each round. I was really excited and actually I started wrecking house. Die!
I'm so good at this game.
I was crushing them, playing super well, getting lots of in-game currency that I could use to level up my characters, which we'll get to, don't worry. But most importantly, I was having a lot of fun. 5 minutes into the round, I'd killed a player who then left the match because, of course they did. Once you're dead, you're dead. You can't come back to life, and nobody's gonna sit around for 10 minutes waiting for the next round to start after they've died. They're gonna leave, and they should leave. Why should they have to sit around watching other people play for 10 minutes when there's no chance that they're gonna come back? Well, guess what? Mob Games thinks that your time is worthless, and that it's reasonable to expect a player to stare at the screen for 10 minutes. In fact, they punish you if you don't. Leaving the game early means forfeiting all of the tickets you had earned that round. Initially, this just seemed cruel to me. Why do they care if players leave after they're dead? Why punish them for that? This isn't Call of Duty Deathmatch where players respawn indefinitely. This isn't Counter-Strike where there is permadeath each round, but no given round is going to last more than a handful of minutes. A dead player leaving a Project Playtime match shouldn't impact anyone else's experience whatsoever, right? That was when I discovered the true reason for this cruel and unusual design. Moments later, I killed a second player, but they happened to be the host of the match, and when they went to leave, well, this happened.
This should be death. Oh, hang on. Yeah, he's dead. Okay. We probably will win, I think, unless these guys can get work. Oh. The host left the game.
This is the single stupidest oversight in Project Playtime. If the host leaves, the game is over and everyone loses all the tickets they'd earned that round. Why? Fuck you, that's why. It's ironic because I think Mob Games did recognize that this would be a problem and they hoped that losing all your tickets would disincentivize people from leaving the round early, but the problem is that if the host dies really early in the round, they probably haven't earned enough tickets to justify waiting around for 10 minutes watching other people play. In most cases, they're just gonna leave anyway, and as mentioned before, that means everyone loses their rewards. The other problem is that there's just so much abuse potential. It's quite easy to tell if you've been assigned host for the match, and I could absolutely see salty players deliberately leaving the game moments before they lose, ending the round and causing all the tickets everyone earned to be lost forever. The permanent solution here is host migration, and Mob Games needs to implement something like that. If the host leaves, make a new player the host and keep things going. Halo 2 did this back in 2004, so it can definitely be done as long as Project Playtime's architecture isn't horrendously stupid, which it may be, who knows. I'm not trying to bag on this game the whole time. I do think it has promise, and thus I'm going to suggest a short-term solution to this problem that I think would help out a lot, at least until proper host migration can be implemented. In quick play matches, whoever is the monster should be made the host. Always. Think about it, the monster never dies, so there's no situation where the player with host is just sitting there staring at their screen doing nothing. As they kill other players, those people can leave, and they can still get their rewards when they do because you know that they weren't hosts and their leaving didn't negatively impact anyone else's experience. Finally, if the host that's playing as the monster does leave the game or the server terminates for whatever reason, the game ends in victory for the team and they don't have to lose out on all of their tickets. Unfortunately, until such a fix is implemented, I just just can't recommend that you play in any public lobbies. It's just a game of roulette as to whether or not the host dies early. If they don't, you might get a game completed, but if they do, they're going to leave and the round will end abruptly without anyone getting any rewards. Sure, you can host lobbies yourself, but if you die early in the round, you're gonna wanna leave too. When I hosted lobbies and died, I didn't wait around for 10 minutes watching the other players. I'm trying to stream here. I left, and unfortunately, that meant the game ended for everyone else too.
Yeah, forget that. I don't want tickets. I'm not sitting here for 12 minutes. Ridiculous.
It's completely absurd that Mob Games didn't recognize that no host is going to sit around for more than a couple of minutes after they've died. It's not realistic to expect a player to die in the first 5 minutes of a round only to have to wait 10 minutes before they can safely get their rewards. As of now, I can only recommend that you play Project Playtime with groups of friends who are going to be willing to wait around for the game to finish even after they've died. When the game is working though, it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I quickly discovered that the vast majority of games were against Boxy Boo, which makes sense because having played all of the monsters, Boxy Boo is by far the most fun to play. As a Jack-in-the-Box, Boxy can charge up a spring jump that sends him flying across the map. He has so much more mobility than any of the other monsters. I see why everyone picks him every round. His kit is really powerful and he's just more fun to play than Huggy or Mommy. The theater map in particular is a great level to play as Boxy in because he's got lots of space to jump around and grab enemies and surprise people. It's pretty cool. The other level is a little bit cluttered though, so Boxy's less effective, though he's still the best character by far. At one point, I went to pounce on a player from above as Boxy Boo, but I just slammed into an invisible wall and missed my opportunity. That sucked because it would have been so cool. This kind of emergent gameplay is exactly the kind of moment that sells a game like this. It's a bummer it was ruined by something that's so easy to fix. There just shouldn't be a freaking invisible wall here. I wish I was showing you guys a clip of me tearing him to shreds and saying, look, this game is awesome, but that's not what happened. I got stuck for 15 seconds. Mommy is okay. She has good mobility, but she's slower than Boxy and she can't really get the jump on people the way he can. Huggy Wuggy though, he just sucks. His gimmick is placing these mini Huggies that scream in your face when you get close, alerting him to your presence, but compared to the other monsters, he's just not as fun to play. His lack of mobility just makes him much weaker than Boxy or Mommy, and I really think Mob Games needs to go back to the drawing board with Huggy and give him a more interesting kit with more interesting ways to traverse the map. He really needs more mobility. I mentioned before that my favorite moments as the non-monster, what do you even call these things? They definitely aren't human, were the ones where I was being chased and used some object on the map to escape, but there were other cool moments too. Unfortunately, there were also moments where one of our teammates got soft-locked somewhere during the escape sequence and we had to sit around for several minutes doing nothing, waiting for the round to end. Still, that's a bug. It's not a problem with the game's core design, so I'm not going to criticize it. It's fine. Just fix it. The maps are huge, and with only 2 players in it, they can just go on for so long without anyone ever actually encountering each other. Part of the problem is that there aren't enough actions that clue the monster into the player's location. You can see a footstep trail and Boxy Boo plays music that gets progressively louder and faster as they get closer to players, but it's often not enough to locate a single player. In games like Dead by Daylight, there are a lot of actions that reveal a survivor's location to the killer. Running off a ledge, slamming a door. You often have the option to do something slowly and quietly or quickly but loud. In Project Playtime though, only a few actions alert the monster to a player's location, usually whenever they fail a puzzle. In the late game though, when most of the pillars have already been completed, there are long stretches where the player is running around trying to figure out which puzzles still need to be completed because the game doesn't tell you, but finding none. Thus, the monster is never alerted to their location and they never find them. They never run into each other. Finally, the actual upgrades that you unlock with the tickets are lazy. Most of them are just boring stat upgrades, move faster, have more health, make puzzles easier. It works, but none of these perks actually change the way you play the game. They just make the existing gameplay easier. I really wish that they had developed skill trees that are based around, trade-offs and risk rewards, stuff that actually changes the way you play the game. Give players a perk that makes puzzles go faster, making them harder but faster to solve. Give players a perk that allows them to roll farther in exchange for a longer cooldown, or maybe something that replaces the roll with a different perk entirely. A super jump that flings you across the map, and as a trade-off, you have to sacrifice one of your hearts and you're now permanently dead after only 2 downings. There are so many things that Mob games could be doing, but instead we got move faster while crouched, have more health. Come on. It just isn't exciting. When I unlocked the move faster perk, I got into my next game and I didn't immediately notice that I was moving faster. These perks take a while to unlock, and I had only gotten 2 after playing for several hours. They should be more meaningful and exciting for the player. When you unlock a new perk, you should be super stoked to try it out. It should allow you to play the game in a new, exciting way, but these don't. They're super subtle, boring, marginal stat boosts, nothing more. It's lazy. The monsters have some more interesting perks. For example, Huggy has one that immediately sends all downed players to the gulag, allowing him to go on a killing spree without needing to worry about depositing players into the hatches. However, considering you only get to play as the monster in maybe 10% of the games, most people are going to prioritize getting other perks first. Finally, this brings us to the skins. They're lazy. Some of them are cool. This Killy Willy skin for Huggy is dope, as is this hamburger costume for Boxy Boo. However, most of the rewards are just boring. Finger pistol emotes, a cowboy hat, a metallic gold reskin of Huggy Wuggy. Come on guys, do you really think this is worth the money you're charging? I understand how the freemium model works, and I'm not going to criticize Project Playtime for doing the same kind of stuff that all of its contemporaries are. However, you're asking players to spend real-life money, and I would expect that all of my special rewards would be on the level of something like Willy. If there's one thing Mob Games is especially great at, it's art and models and animation, and there's no excuse for not having cooler rewards for the people who are willing to spend money in Project Playtime. Furthermore, that Killy Willy skin, you get it at level 100, so you're gonna need to spend in-game money and play like a lunatic to ever get it. If I'm gonna spend money in a freemium game, I want some dope skins. I want a lot of them, and I want them fast. As it stands, Project Playtime just isn't giving that to me. Considering the bare bones janky state that the game is in, and considering how many serious hurdles Mob Games needs to overcome to fix it, I can't in good conscience recommend that you spend any money in this game. The cosmetics you can buy outright just aren't cool enough to justify it, and the game is still in too early a state for me to be comfortable buying a battle pass and hoping I continue to play it for months and actually unlock the stuff. If you're the biggest Poppy Playtime fan in the world and you just want to support Mob Games, sure, go ahead, spend money in-game, buy the Battle Pass. I'd argue you'd be better off buying Poppy Playtime merch from them because then at least you get some cool physical merch, but fine, spend your money how you want. However, if you're just a gamer who's interested in this game and is thinking about purchasing some of these skins, just wait. Wait and see how well Mob Games supports Project Playtime going forward. Wait and see if the player base survives, or if nobody is playing this game a month from now. Finally, wait and see if you and your friends actually find yourselves playing the game regularly, because if any of those things fail to pan out, you're gonna regret having wasted money on Project Playtime. Again, I don't have a problem with Project Playtime's implementation of the freemium model. It's not evil or super greedy or anything like that. The game isn't pay to win. However, it's also super beta, like really early access, and I just don't think it's a good look to have all of this infrastructure for microtransactions and spending real money on in-game currency and battle passes and stuff when so much of the core game still needs work. I'm not saying that, oh, they should have fixed the game before they worked on these microtransactions. I understand that those things have little to do with each other. However, Mob Games knew that their game was still in pretty rough shape. I mean, they literally missed their launch due to last-minute bugs. And I feel like it would have been a much better look to just launch the game without any of the microtransactions and then add them in later. If this game wasn't full of monetization, I suspect the tone of this video would have been very different. I probably would have been a lot more forgiving on the game, knowing that it was truly just a beta test for the sole purpose of improving the game and that they weren't trying to make any money off of it. Once you start asking players for money though, I'm sorry, but you open yourself up to a lot more criticism. One of my earliest videos criticized Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 for being overrated, and some people responded saying that it was just a tech demo, that I shouldn't be criticizing it so harshly because it's just a proof of concept. That's bullshit though. If it cost money, it's not a tech demo. Project Playtime is no different. It's a commercial product from day one, and thus I feel completely justified in pointing out the game's flaws and recommending that people not spend money in it until it's in better shape. You should all download the game, of course. It's free. Why wouldn't you check it out? You don't need to take my word or anyone else's for it. Just go play it and see for yourself. However, even if you really enjoy the game, and honestly, I did enjoy it despite the issues, I encourage you to hold off on spending money in it at least for a couple of months. This is Mob Games game's first ever multiplayer games as a service project, and they haven't proven themselves yet. Be cautious. If you find yourself still playing the game regularly next year and it's continued to get better with frequent updates, sure, go ahead, spend money. Until then though, you're probably better off not. Not to mention, trust me, nobody cares that you have a golden Huggy Wuggy skin anyway.